Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sensible SENCO. I have a pile of books in front of me and they were all sent to me either by the author or by the publisher or by somebody who wanted me to have a look at this particular book. The three I have chosen to have a quick flick through tonight are all to do with autism. I'm going to start with this one. So this one is Autism from A to Z, and it's written by a lady called Kathy Carter, who is also on Facebook. And as soon as she said she'd publish this one, I felt the need to try and get hold of a copy to have a look at it. It's quite an interesting book. So it does go from A to Z, with A being autism and Asperger's and anxiety and ADHD, and J being for judgment, and M for meltdowns, music, masking, and Z being for dropping to sleep. And then there's a poem at the end of it as well. But the really nice thing about it is that the way it has been written, and if I just pick one, so if I go for A for anxiety, I've got the information here about what anxiety is and how it might affect individuals with autism. And then the author, at the end of each one of these, has a section called the autist's view. So instead of writing about it from a neurotypical viewpoint, writing about it from the viewpoint of the autist. So their specific view on that particular thing, their specific view, in this case, on anxiety. And that's recognising that not everybody will have that particular viewpoint, but it's kind of giving us a window into that way of thinking, or that world, if you like. So B is for burnout, and do you know the phrase burning the candle at both ends? Autistic burnout is this author's opinion and experience, and is when your candle has burned out, a physiological symptom of system overload. And it goes on and she explains what it actually is, and then we have the autist's view. I believe I experienced burnout in my teens when my GP diagnosed myalgic encephalomyelitis. Do you know what? Normally I can say that one, I can't say it today. ME, a chronic condition that causes symptoms affecting the nervous and immune systems. And I think that's what makes this book really, really special, because it isn't just somebody writing about autism. It's somebody who's actually thought about, okay, here's a letter, here's a word that goes with that letter, and here's a slightly different viewpoint about that. I recommend it as something to put on your staff SEN CPD book list to dip into and out of. There's a nice one here about shutdown and restrictive interventions and stimming. So if I had a member of staff come to me and say, I don't understand stimming, I really don't get it, why are they doing it? This would be a good chapter to kind of point them in the direction of. And they're nice and short, they're not too long. The whole book itself is 220 odd pages. And right at the very back, Kathy has written a little poem that goes with that. And it's not my place to read that poem out to you. Go and buy the book and have a look at it for yourself. A good book. Two other books then. So this one was sent to me by the author. She contacted me on Facebook, I believe, and said, I hope you don't mind me contacting you, but would you mind reading my book and giving me a bit of feedback? I said, yeah, sure. So she organised for a copy to be sent to me. And this one is called Hey, I'm Maisie and I Am Autistic. And I did have a little giggle at this because Maisie has a beauty spot on her bottom. And my youngest son has a beauty spot on his bottom too. So it kind of made me smile. The nice one about this, it's written from the point of view of Maisie, who is the character in the book. And there are some lovely illustrations with this. It picks out some keywords and phrases using capital letters. So we've got the words like autistic, anxious, different, go away, sad. And then at the end of each kind of episode within the book, so it's a double page episode if you like, there's a little bit in italics and then it says, people can help me by, and explains it. So people can help me by asking me about my autism and taking the time to learn more about me. And there's a beautiful illustration there that says, we are not all the same. I really enjoyed looking at this one. The illustrations really, really helped. I did feedback to the author that the capital letters for me, I found them quite difficult. So it wasn't so much that I understood why she'd done it. I absolutely understood that. But for me, on the page, it made it quite difficult to read. And I felt that this is very much a book that children would read, and that trying to get them to read lots of capital letter words on a page would make things quite difficult, especially when they're new words like anxious. And it's designed for children aged 7 years plus, and anxious is not the easiest word for any reader, especially not when it's written in capital letters. So I did feed that back to Alison and say, this is where I'm struggling with this. But it's a great book. It's really interesting, and it gives you a viewpoint of Maisie and why she struggles with different things. And I think the really key thing about this is it's not a book about a boy. It's a book about a girl, and we know that girls are usually much better at masking their autistic difficulties than boys are, who tend to have more outbursts. So again, another really great book. This one is available on Amazon. I don't think she has a website. She has a Twitter post though, which is @AlisonH Writes. And as you know, I am a great advocate for Carter's Yard Phonics. I love Carter's Yard Phonics. I think they are a really great resource. They have taken the normal flashcards that we've been using for 50 odd years in schools and developed them into something that is 21st century and uses technology and AR to support it. Well, Carter's Yard Phonics contacted me and said, my mate's written a book, would you mind having a look at it for us and seeing if there's anything you can say to him? And so they put me in touch with Dunkeldeed. His name's David Martin, but he gets called Dunkeldeed. And he sent me this book here, which is called A Vision of Empathy. If you follow me on Twitter and on Facebook, you will know that this book made me cry. And here's the point where I admit I've now read it 3 times and I have cried twice. Sorry. It's not because it's a sad story. It really isn't. It's just, it really touches you, and it is probably one of the best stories I've ever read. And it explains autism in such a way that you can't fail to understand how the characters in the book actually feel. So we have Noah, he is the main character here, and he does some strange things, or so Sadie thinks. Sadie thinks they are strange things. She is the other main character in the story. And they go to a zoo. And when they get to the zoo, some things happen to Sadie. And this means that she gets a kind of light bulb moment where she discovers the things that she's experiencing, which are quite extreme, are actually the same things as Noah is experiencing, but he doesn't need that same extremity in order to feel that way. The illustrations, again, are absolutely delightful in this book, and it is one that belongs in every primary school classroom. I'd like to think that every child reads it at primary school or has it read to them at primary school, and that we wouldn't need it in secondary school. But to be perfectly honest, I think it could belong in the secondary school library as well. It's a great story. Illustrations like the meltdown with all the animals and everything that was happening to Sadie towards the end of the story, and the beautiful collection or collage of different images. Again, a book that I really cannot recommend enough. It will teach your staff an awful lot, and then you can use it with your students as well. If you pop along to Dunkeldeed's website, which is www.dunkeldeed.com, there is an animated advert for the book as well, which again is well worth watching. As always, guys, take care of yourselves.